King Charles III is worth about £640 million. That makes him, by the estimates of the Sunday Times Rich List, roughly the 238th richest person in his own country. 238th. In Britain, the family at number 1 on this list is worth more than 500 times that. And there is one question threaded through all 10, because the higher this ladder climbs, the harder it becomes to answer. Where exactly does a country's treasury end and a family's bank account begin? By number 1, that question stops having an answer at all. Number 10. Monaco, the House of Grimaldi. Prince Albert II has a reported net worth of around $1 billion, and he rules the second smallest country on Earth. Roughly 2 square kilometers, smaller than Central Park. But the interesting number isn't his fortune, it's his footprint. Albert is reported to own around a quarter of all the land in Monaco, and Monaco is the most expensive property market on the planet, where apartments have traded at more than €50,000 per square metre. There has been no income tax on residents since 1869, which is precisely why the harbour is a wall of super yachts. The Grimaldis have held this rock since 1297, when Francesco Grimaldi, reportedly dressed as a monk, was admitted to the fortress as a man of God and drew a sword. 700 years later, they are still there, and the family, the state, and the casino company are threaded so tightly together that separating them is genuinely difficult. $1 billion. That is the entry fee to this list. Remember the question. Number 9. The United Kingdom. The House of Windsor. This is the most famous royal family in human history, and it is 9th. Charles is personally worth roughly £640 million. But the number everyone quotes is the Crown Estate, more than 190,000 acres, huge stretches of central London, including Regent Street and the seabed around the British Isles. A portfolio reported at well north of £15 billion. He does not own it. In 1760, King George III made a deal. He handed the Crown Estate's profits to the government and in exchange received a fixed income. Every monarch since has renewed that same bargain. Today it produces the sovereign grant, well over £100 million a year. There is genuine private wealth. The Duchy of Lancaster, a portfolio of land and property worth around £650 million, pays the king a private income of over £20 million a year. Sandringham and Balmoral are privately owned. The crown jewels are held in trust for the nation. But stack it all together, and the world's most recognizable monarchy is 9th on its own list. Fame and fortune, it turns out, are not the same asset. Number 8. Luxembourg, the House of Nassau-Weilburg, the world's last remaining Grand Duchy. A country of about 670,000 people, with one of the highest incomes per person anywhere. Grand Duke Henri, who handed the throne to his son Guillaume in October of 2025, has long been estimated at around $4 billion. Though in fairness, the palace once publicly dismissed the published figures as pure fantasy, which is a reminder that almost every number on this list is an estimate made from the outside. $4 billion accumulated quietly across centuries in what became one of the great banking centers of Europe. And almost nobody could pick the Grand Duke out of a crowd. Number 7. Malaysia, the Royal House of Johor. Bloomberg has valued the family's assets at a minimum of $5.7 billion. Sultan Ibrahim became King of Malaysia in January of 2024, under the only rotating monarchy on Earth, where 9 royal households take the throne in turn for 5 years each. The holdings include a reported 18 billion ringgit of land across the border in Singapore, a multi-billion investment portfolio, a reported 300 luxury cars, and a fleet of jets including a gold and blue Boeing 737. And a private army. The Johor Military Force, founded in 1886, is the only legally permitted private military force belonging to a state ruler in Malaysia. Not ceremonial, constitutional. Number 6, Liechtenstein. And this is the one almost nobody expects. 62 square miles of alpine valley between Switzerland and Austria. Population about 40,000. Prince Hans Adam II has been valued by Bloomberg at around $6 billion. 6 billion is respectable but not remarkable on this list. The remarkable number is what the family controls. The princely house privately owns LGT Group, a global bank and asset manager. By the end of 2024, LGT managed roughly $400 billion of client money, and the country is named after the family, not the other way around. They bought Schellenberg in 1699 and Vaduz in 1712, stitched them together, and in 1719 the Holy Roman Emperor declared the result a principality bearing their name. It is the only country on earth named after the family that purchased it. They have also been broke. In 1945, Czechoslovakia confiscated the family's ancestral estates, by most accounts the overwhelming majority of what they owned. In 1967, to rebuild, the family sold a Leonardo da Vinci, the portrait of Ginevra de Benci, to the National Gallery of Art in Washington for a reported $5 million. Then the highest price ever paid for a painting. And here is the detail that matters for the question I asked at the start. This monarchy costs Liechtenstein's taxpayers nothing. The castles, the court, the collections, all funded by the family's own foundation. Of every family on this list, they are the cleanest answer to where the country ends and the family begins, because they simply never mixed the two. Number 5. Brunei, the House of Bolkiah. Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah has ruled since 1967, one of the longest reigns of any living monarch, over a country of about 450,000 people. His fortune, built on oil and natural gas, is estimated at around $28 billion, with published figures ranging up to $50 billion. The Istana Nurul Iman was completed in 1984 at a reported cost of $1.4 billion. 1,788 rooms, 257 bathrooms, 5 swimming pools, a banquet hall for 5,000 people, an air-conditioned stable for 200 polo ponies. It holds the Guinness World Record as the largest residential palace on Earth. Buckingham Palace has around 775 rooms, so the Istana is more than twice the size. Reporting has long described a collection of roughly 7,000 vehicles, including around 600 Rolls-Royces, 450 Ferraris, and 380 Bentleys, valued in total at over $5 billion. That garage alone is worth more than the entire estimated fortune of the King of Malaysia. Brunei has no personal income tax. Healthcare and education are effectively free. Fuel is subsidized. Where the country ends and the family begins is not a question anyone in Brunei is encouraged to ask. Number 4. Thailand, the House of Chakri. King Maha Vajiralongkorn is widely estimated at around $43 billion, which makes him the single wealthiest individual monarch on Earth. For most of the 20th century, the royal fortune sat inside the Crown Property Bureau, an institution created in the 1930s. The distinction was everything. The assets were understood to be held for the Crown as an institution, not owned by the king as a person. Then Bhumibol died in October of 2016, after 70 years on the throne, and Vajiralongkorn succeeded him. A new Crown Property Act passed in 2017, and in June of 2018, the Bureau announced its assets would now be held in the name of His Majesty. Al Jazeera reported it as the king signing roughly $30 billion over to himself. Bloomberg reported that he now held the Bureau's billions directly. The holdings include vast tracts of central Bangkok and controlling scale stakes in Siam Commercial Bank and Siam Cement Group, reported to be worth more than $7 billion combined. Under the old arrangement, those assets were tax-exempt. Under the new one, held personally, they became taxable. That is the clearest answer anyone has ever given to my question. The line between the nation's money and the family's money was a piece of paper, and in 2018, somebody signed it. Now stop for a second, because everything above this point was a warm-up. The bottom 7 families on this list are, in the end, comprehensible. $1 billion, $6 billion, $28 billion. Large numbers, but numbers a person can hold in their head. Palaces that can be measured, cars that can be counted, portfolios with filings attached to them. The top 3 are a different species of wealth entirely. Each one is worth more than every family below them on this list combined, several times over, and each is attached to a sovereign wealth fund large enough to move global markets. From here up, the fortunes stop being things families own and start being things families steer. Watch how fast the question I asked at the beginning becomes unanswerable. Number 3. Qatar, the House of Al Thani. Bloomberg's 2025 ranking of the world's richest families puts Al Thani at around $199.5 billion. That is not a palace fortune. That is an investment empire. The Qatar Investment Authority, the state's sovereign wealth fund, has spent 2 decades buying trophy assets across the West. Harrods, the Shard, stakes in some of Europe's largest banks and car makers. Qatar's wealth comes from one of the largest natural gas fields on the planet, and the ruling family sits at the center of the machine that deploys it. Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani took over in 2013. The family has ruled since the 1800s. The scale is easiest to grasp through the shopping. Qatar's fund has, at various points, been reported among the largest shareholders in some of Europe's best-known companies, and the property holdings in London alone are extensive enough that Qatari investment is a standing feature of British business coverage. A country with a population smaller than many single cities became one of the most consequential landlords and shareholders in Europe in roughly 20 years on the back of gas. And notice what has happened to the question. In Monaco, the answer was murky. In Thailand, it was a signature. Here, the sovereign wealth fund and the ruling family are not legally identical, but they are so operationally entangled that the published family fortune and the national fortune are quoted in the same breath. Number 2. Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud. And this is where the numbers stop agreeing with each other entirely. Bloomberg's 2025 list puts the Al Saud family at around $213.6 billion. You will also see the figure $1.4 trillion attached to this family routinely. Both numbers describe the same dynasty, they just measure different things. 213 billion is an estimate of family wealth. 1.4 trillion is what happens when you fold in the machinery the family presides over. Saudi Aramco, one of the most valuable companies ever listed, and the Public Investment Fund, a sovereign fund with assets in the hundreds of billions. The family itself is enormous, with thousands of members. There is no register, no filing, no audited statement. Any figure is an outsider's guess at a structure designed not to be measured. So which number is right? That depends entirely on whether you count the country as part of the family, which is the question I asked at the start, now impossible to avoid. Number 1. Abu Dhabi, the House of Al Nahyan. Bloomberg's 2025 ranking places the Al Nahyan family at around $335.9 billion, making them the wealthiest royal family in the world. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed is president of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi holds the overwhelming majority of the UAE's oil reserves, and the Emirates' sovereign wealth machinery is among the largest on earth. Reporting has described Sheikh Tahnoon overseeing Abu Dhabi funds with combined assets estimated at around $1.4 trillion. The family's reach is visible everywhere, often without the name attached. Sheikh Mansour, a member of the family, has owned Manchester City since 2008, turning a mid-table English football club into a global institution. The Louvre Abu Dhabi, airlines, ports, chip investments, artificial intelligence funds. $335 billion is more than 500 times the personal fortune of King Charles. It is more than the annual economic output of most countries on Earth. And if this is the kind of thing worth more of, subscribe, because I am working my way through these families one by one. The Al Nahyan books, the House of Saud, the ones nobody can name. That is the whole channel, and it is free. To put the gap in one line, the Al Nahyan family is estimated to be worth more than every European royal house on this list, added together, multiplied by roughly 30. Monaco, Britain, Luxembourg and Liechtenstein combined do not reach 4% of it. And unlike the European houses, almost none of this fortune is old. Oil was discovered in commercial quantities in Abu Dhabi in the late 1950s. Before that, this was a coastal territory whose economy leaned heavily on pearl diving, a trade that had already been devastated by the invention of the cultured pearl. Within a single human lifetime, that turned into the largest royal fortune on the planet. The Grimaldis needed 700 years to reach 1 billion. Abu Dhabi covered 335 billion in about 60. And here is the thing about number 1. Nobody can tell you with any precision where the Al Nahyan family's money stops and Abu Dhabi's money starts. Not because it is hidden, particularly, but because the distinction was never built in the first place. The emirate and the dynasty grew up as the same thing. Before the answer, the families that did not make the cut, because they explain the ranking better than the ranking does. Kuwait. The House of Al Sabah sits atop the Kuwait Investment Authority, one of the oldest sovereign wealth funds in the world, established decades before most countries had the idea. One published estimate puts the royal family's share of national wealth at around $360 billion, which would place them at the very top of this list. I have left that figure out of the ranking on purpose because it measures something different from the others. A family's notional share of a country's fund, rather than an estimate of family assets. Change the method, change the winner. That is the whole problem in one example. Morocco. The Alawite dynasty has ruled since the 1600s, and King Mohammed VI is commonly estimated in the range of $5 to $8 billion, with the royal holdings historically channeled through a major national investment company with stakes across banking, mining, and agriculture. Comfortably wealthy, structurally opaque, and dwarfed by the Gulf. The Netherlands. The House of Orange-Nassau, one of Europe's oldest royal houses, is estimated at around $1 billion, with a century of speculation about a historic stake in Royal Dutch Shell that the palace has never confirmed. When a Dutch business magazine ranked the country's richest families, the royals came in 10th, in their own kingdom. So let's answer the question. 3 families on this list gave a straight answer. Liechtenstein pays for its own monarchy and mixes nothing. Britain traded its estate away in 1760 for a guaranteed income. Thailand's answer arrived in 2018, on paper, with a signature. The rest have no answer, and the wealthiest have the least, which produces the pattern running through this entire countdown. The clearer a royal family's accounts are, the poorer that family turns out to be. Charles's fortune is public and audited, and he is 9th. The House of Saud's fortune is unmeasurable, and estimates of it vary by more than $1 trillion. Transparency on this list is the price of being ranked at all. If this was worth your time, subscribe. The next one opens a fortune that was given away to a god in 1750 and has never been fully counted since. I'll see you there.